The golden age of animation, this is not. Welcome to WatchMojo, and today, we're counting down our picks for the top 10 worst animated movies of the century so far.
Oh, Rexy, you lucky boy. We found you a girlfriend.
Girlfriend? Take me, stud muffin!
For this list, we'll be looking at the absolute worst animated movies the 20th century has produced to date. Anything released in or after the year 2000 is eligible, so earlier films like 1998's Pocahontas 2, yes, that's a thing that exists, will not be eligible.
I can't learn your ways alone, but you can help me.
We're also disqualifying TV movies and films that strive for full photorealism and use real sets like Cats.
Like it's sort of a joke, and I rather like it, so the joke's on him.
Number 20, Mars Needs Moms. Not every animated movie from the legendary Walt Disney Company can become a classic, but we still expect better from the House of Mouse than this. A limp and lifeless animated feature starring Seth Green, the film follows a young boy named Milo as he tries to rescue his kidnapped mother from Martian invaders. While later entries in our list will defiantly stride into so bad it's good territory, this one is just bland and forgettable.
I dig it when you change color.
With uninteresting or outright annoying characters, massive tonal shifts, and just nothing to really keep viewers engaged. Despite being a major studio release, the film was forgotten almost as soon as it arrived.
It did as I was told. Turns out that's exactly why they chose her.
Number 19, Planes.
Just like Mama used to spray.
They say the sense of smell is the first thing to go.
Hey, you remember Cars? Remember how it was good, but sort of lacking in terms of depth? It was a solid enough kids movie, sure, but pretty mediocre judged by Pixar's many incredible films. While Planes is the bland and unoriginal spin-off that makes you realize that Cars could have been much worse.
Your strut jet stream?
Yep.
A crop duster? Man, what's going on here? Is everybody getting to fly today?
This film feels like a monetary decision and nothing more. The first two Cars films made buttloads of cash, and so Disney produced this spin-off to keep the sweet greenbacks coming. The result is about what you'd expect. A by-the-numbers children's adventure with celebrity voices and little in the way of original ideas.
It's going to be close. It's anyone's race. All right, get my good side, fellas.
Number 18, Cars 2. Hey, you remember Cars?
Hey, is Lightning McQueen back yet?
Okay, we're not going to reuse everything we said in our last entry, but we were tempted. Almost everything that could be said about Disney's airborne spin-off to Cars could also be said about this glossy direct sequel. While it's certainly technically proficient and visually eye-catching, this is among Pixar's shallowest and most blatantly commercial efforts to date.
Well, he's got some serious work ahead of him if he wants to get back in this race.
While the studio made its name with kids' films that were thoughtful, mature, and often dealt with heavy subjects, this entry just feels like a cash grab, both at the box office and the toy store. From a studio of such illustrious pedigree, we just expect better. We're not angry, Pixar, we're just disappointed.
It's the American Spy!
Dadgum.
Gatling gun. Request acknowledged.
Number 17, Ugly Dolls. If you were a parent or toy collector in the early 2000s, you may remember the series of plush dolls that this animated film is based on.
Welcome to Uglyville, friend. What's your name?
Flat top. Crew cut.
Wedgehead?
Evidently, not that many people remembered the brand when the film adaptation came out in 2019, as the film underperformed at the box office.
You're U-G-L-Y, and that's the ugly truth.
Those who did see the film were greeted by a colorful and cheery but ultimately derivative animated musical, despite singers like Nick Jonas, Pitbull, Kelly Clarkson, and Janelle Monáe providing voices and musical numbers for the film.
Step 1, find the trendiest of outfits. Step 2, pick the one that just about fits.
In an interesting tidbit, the film was originally slated to be directed and written by Sin City co-director Robert Rodriguez. Makes you wonder what kind of movie it could have been, doesn't it?
It's got to get better than this, right?
Number 16, The Queen's Corgi. It's an empirical fact that corgis are just plain adorable, with the stubby little legs, sweet faces, and fluffy tummies. And yet our love of these adorable pups just isn't enough to carry this abysmal animated film from Belgium's N-Wave Pictures. The film follows Rex, the favorite corgi of Queen Elizabeth II, who finds himself in the pound after biting Donald Trump. Yeah, we're serious.
Mr. President!
I believe this is is yours.
The film is 85 minutes of bad jokes and presentable but unremarkable animation with a bewilderingly high-class voice cast including Jack Whitehall, Ray Winstone, and Julie Walters.
You're alive. How could you betray me? You were my best friend, Charlie.
Of course we're friends, Rex.
No, we're not.
Couldn't they just have made a movie about Cheddar from Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Number 15, Sir Billi. The career of Sir Sean Connery is nothing short of legendary, even outside his stint as James Bond. The Scottish actor has countless classic films under his belt, and this low-rent Scottish animated feature film.
My name's William. Billi to my friends.
The film sees Connery voicing an elderly, skateboarding veterinarian who must save a fugitive beaver named Bessie Boo. And while Connery can and has brought dignity and gravitas to many a role, this is not one of them. The CGI is also pretty unpleasant to look at, even when you take the film's relatively meager budget into account. Why Connery came out of retirement for a movie like this, we will never know.
Sir Sean Connery is Sir Billi. That sub-shoe reminds me of another adventure.
Number 14, Playmobil, the movie.
We save the day. Fighting and night. Fighting and night.
Since its inception in the 1970s, this toy line has been in fierce competition with chief rival Lego, so it's not surprising that they'd try and replicate Lego's success on the big screen. We wish we could say that their failure to do so was a surprise, but that would be a lie. The film sees siblings Charlie and Marla transported into the Playmobil world.
Marley, it's me. You look weird. Where are we?
After Charlie is taken prisoner by pirates, Marla must save him in an adventure that pits her against aliens, dinosaurs, robots, and more.
Let's make this dino soar. Come on, it wasn't that bad.
Maybe if it had come out first, this movie might have fared better. But especially when compared to its brick-building rival, Playmobil the movie just cannot compete.
All right, Charlie, we got this.
Number 13, Tiara the Brave. The term mockbuster refers to movies that are intentionally similar, sometimes to the point of legal sketchiness, to big high-profile movies released around the same time.
Dear Kiara, aren't you enjoying your birthday party?
It's nice.
At best, the idea is to ride another movie's coattails. At worst, these movies hope to make their money from people who buy or rent them by mistake. You can probably figure out which film this bargain basement animated feature is imitating all on your own. But if you need a hint, take a look at the title.
Hey, you roadhogs! You're blocking my view! I need to get to the palace quickly!
Don't worry, Super Cloud! The palace isn't going anywhere!
A woefully inept and visually hideous mess, this film is somehow even worse than you'd expect, with animation that looks decades out of date and some of the worst voice acting we have ever heard.
This is the best you can do? Yeah, this is better than what you can do.
Number 12, Doogal. If you found yourself at a video store in the mid-2000s, you may have glanced at the cover of this animated film gathering dust in the kids section.
What an unforeseeable accident!
Despite the voice cast, including Judi Dench, Jon Stewart, Ian McKellen, and a number of other high-profile names, the film is an absolute slog. And there is a reason.
I'm not just a fixture on a merry-go-round. I'm a soldier.
You may wear a soldier's uniform, Sam. It's what's inside that counts.
The film was originally made and released in the UK as The Magic Roundabout, but was recut and redubbed for the US release, with American actors delivering already dated pop culture references and flatulence jokes.
It's my birthday. Go.
While it may have been tolerable in its original form, studio meddling rendered this American version nearly unwatchable.
Here's Johnny. Someone order ribs.
Bring out your dead!
Pirates of the Caribbean. Hey, thought we said no Disney jokes.
Number 11, Delgo. Another all-star of DVD bargain bins everywhere, this 2008 animated feature redefined the term box office bomb upon release.
Just get some help.
Yeah,
And hurry!
What? No, no! Come back here!
Against a budget of $40 million, the film grossed barely over $500,000. Those are the kinds of numbers that make studio execs question their career choices.
Relax, these guys are amateurs.
We wish we could say the film is an underappreciated gem, but it's mostly just a hodgepodge of sci-fi and fantasy tropes held together by not especially great-looking animation. Not even the presence of film legend Anne Bancroft could save this one, and she's been known to work a miracle or two in her day.
But I do have regrets. One in particular leaves me no peace. That you didn't have the courage to finish what I started.
Number 10, Sherlock Gnomes. A sequel to 2011's Gnomeo and Juliet.
Yeah, we've already done that.
This 2018 film continues the franchise's tradition of basing pretty much the entire movie around one lame pun.
Watson, gnomes are in danger. To the scene of the crime.
See, he's a Sherlock Holmes-style detective, but he's a gnome. Do you get it?
Well, that's not a very good surprise.
That one joke is the foundation on which almost the entire movie rests on. And if that seems like a bad basis for a movie to you, you officially have more sense than the producers did. The film spends an agonizing 86 minutes stretching this joke into a series of set pieces and gags, and even the youngest audience member is likely to get bored long before the credits roll.
I think there's one more twist in the tale.
Number 9, The Nut Job.
I'm afraid this is the wrong kind of nut.
CGI movies starring wacky talking animals have had their fair share of success over the years, but this entry just feels like a pale imitation of other, better films.
All right, listen up. We're gonna dig our own hole, a tunnel from here to the alley. Loot the whole place, get fat for winter, got it?
The film follows Surly, a squirrel voiced by Will Arnett, who makes his living stealing food in the big city. The film is modeled after classic heist movies, but doesn't end up stealing much beyond the audience's time and money. It's got an A-list voice cast, but they're sleepwalking their way through the dialogue, and the pop culture references felt dated even at the time of release.
Do it my way.
The film just doesn't stand out from the crowded genre it inhabits, and we wouldn't be surprised if half the people who watched forgot it ever even existed. Number 8, Legends of Oz: Dorothy's Return.
By silly, surely you mean diabolical. No?
The Wizard of Oz is beyond iconic. Its place as one of the most beloved films of classic Hollywood is unshakable. With that in mind, any film that brings audiences back to the world of Oz has some pretty big ruby slippers to fill.
Emerald City must be in that direction, I think.
Correct. Though I'm not sure I would advise you to go.
Based on a novel by Roger Stanton Baum, great-grandson of original Oz writer L. Frank Baum, the CGI movie doesn't measure up to the legacy of either the books or the classic film, feeling more like a knockoff than a real return to the merry old land of Oz. The animation is dated and unimpressive, and the songs are generally more tedious than toe-tapping.
I know. Hard to take me seriously.
Number 7, Hoodwinked 2, Hood vs. Evil. The original Hoodwinked turned a lot of heads with its combination of fairy tale hijinks and modern charm. Plus, it turned a very strong profit from its modest budget, and so a sequel was greenlit. Unfortunately, the high standards set by the first film proved too much for this ill-fated follow-up.
Negative. Do not proceed. Do not proceed.
Despite actually having a bigger budget, the sequel somehow looks worse than its predecessor, and was lacking in both charm and wit.
Giant superpowered German kids did not see that coming.
It should also be noted that by 2011, the Shrek franchise had taken the whole edgy fairy tale bit about as far as it could be taken, leaving very little room for the Hoodwinked franchise, which is very much in the same vein.
How do you even come up with that? Who says that?
You get what you pay for.
Number 6, A Car's Life: Sparky's Big Adventure.
I wish I could be.
Sparky, stop. This is not a musical.
Released the same year as the much better known Pixar movie, we'd bet cash money that this low-budget animated movie tricked a few unwary souls into buying or renting it by mistake.
Sorry, officer. I didn't think I could drive fast enough to break the speed limit.
Clocking in at a thankfully brief 40 minutes, the film is closer to an animated short than a full feature, and follows an obnoxious red sports car named Sparky. As you can probably see from the footage, the film's animation is beyond terrible, and the voice acting makes Larry the Cable Guy sound like a downright thespian. Just imagine being a 10-year-old kid and getting this for Christmas. That's the one you wanted, right?
She comes all the way out here to make sure we're having a good time, and you accuse her of being not nice.
Number 5, Trolls. Alright folks, let's talk about the Asylum. If you're familiar with mockbusters, odds are you've encountered this company before. Heck, they practically invented the genre.
A prank a day keeps boredom away.
Animated movies aren't something they do often, but when they do, they're generally as horrible as you would expect. A low-budget imitator of DreamWorks Trolls, this film follows a young troll who befriends a human.
My name is Finn.
My name is Hayden.
This high on our list, bad animation should be par for the course, but this movie doubles down by being just plain ugly. Rather than cute, this movie's versions of trolls are hideous to look at, making the movie an uncomfortable chore to get through.
Now the trolls and the humans
This turned into a real troll extravaganza.
must come up with a plan
Topside, topside.
to stop that mean Olaf.
Number 4. Titanic, The Legend Goes On. The sinking of the Titanic is widely seen as one of the greatest tragedies in the history of sea travel. Around 1,500 lives were lost, and those that survived were left forever scarred by the horrific experience.
We've been on tour, senor, and cannot wait to get home, muchachos?
So what could have possibly possessed the makers of this film to turn the event into an animated film featuring talking animals and a rapping dog?
Don't sweat it! Forget it! Enjoy the show!
Oh, right, money. The film's sheer tastelessness wouldn't be quite as bad if it were at least well animated, but it looks like a lazy attempt to copy the style of animator Don Bluth. Add some atrocious voice acting and a schmaltzy ending, and this one's just embarrassing.
Now that I've found her, I'm not going to let her get away from me again.
Hold me, never let me go.
Number 3. Norm of the North.
Don't listen to the haters, Norm. You're a polar bear. You got this.
The best kinds of kids' movies are ones that don't talk down to their audience. Written and produced with enough cleverness, style, and heart, an animated film can and should be enjoyable for audiences of all ages. The makers of this film evidently thought they could substitute all of that with a twerking polar bear. Surprise, surprise, it did not work. Rob Schneider headlines as the titular Norm, a polar bear gifted with the ability to speak to humans. After his grandfather disappears, Norm must use the ability to find him.
Get ready, Grandpa. There's our ride home.
Witless, obnoxious, and annoying in the extreme, this movie has probably driven at least a few parents up the wall. Oh, and did we mention it has 3 sequels?
Okay, I'm not quite getting King of the Arctic. It's more like Queen of the Prom.
Number 2, Foodfight. While not offensive enough to take our top spot, this entry is one of the most legendarily bad movies of all time. So much so that it's gained a cult following.
Listen up, fat cat burglar. I'm giving you one last chance to hand him over before I cash in your coupons for you.
The film had an amazingly troubled production, and was originally meant to be released in the early 2000s, before being haphazardly released direct to DVD in 2012. The results speak for themselves.
I still got it.
The movie follows a group of living food mascots whose grocery store comes under threat from the shady brand X, prompting hero Dex Dog Detective to try and save the day.
Come on, pal. Let's snap, crackle, and pop out of here.
It's just one baffling decision after another as the film stumbles to its conclusion, which naturally involves a dog and a woman getting married. Kinda says it all, doesn't it?
And I thought the raisins were humiliating.
Before we unveil our most atrocious number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions. Ice Age Collision Course, for franchise fatigue.
Yes! I take back everything I ever said about you.
Wait, what?
Where the Dead Go to Die, for being 90 minutes of, huh?
He's watching you.
Freebirds, for making the Angry Birds movie look inspired.
After you.
Tarzan, because you forgot it even existed.
You take me to the meteor, I'll set you both free. Never.
8 Crazy Nights, for hopeless Hanukkah hijinks.
Peanuts for me?
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, the Emoji Movie.
Oh boy, I'm gonna be so meh.
While there may be worse movies out there, this 2017 film takes the top spot for falling right into that how does this exist category from the get-go and never escaping it.
Should we wash our hands?
TJ Miller voices Gene, an emoji capable of multiple expressions, as he embarks on a quest to get reprogrammed. Along the way, Gene encounters various apps and malware, while the user of the cell phone he inhabits struggles to get his phone working again.
I still don't like it!
Almost from the moment it was announced, moviegoers figured it would be a cynical cash grab trying desperately to spin a movie out of a bunch of characterless icons. And wouldn't you know it, they were right.
He said wiped. Aim higher, Steven.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.